Hey everybody, it's Angela. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about practice, the biggest subject that everybody needs in their golf game. And as you can see behind me, all these people are practicing on the driving range on an early morning. I don't know if they're practicing right, but we're definitely going to talk about the big points. If you guys like this video, hit the like, share, subscribe, and let's get started with the video. So first off, I just want to start off with practice. What is practice? Why do we have practice? So whenever you all are coming to me for a lesson or you are just trying to improve your game, there's repetition that needs to be involved. Just like I always use this analogy in all my lessons, especially advice to all my students. It's just like how you grew up in school. You started with the subject in the beginning of the week. The teacher gives you homework daily. After that first week or 2 weeks, there's a quiz. End of the month, there's a test. That's the same setup that you should have when you are practicing your game, which means, hey, not just play on Saturday and practice once before the lesson before we see Angela. No. You actually want to see actual improvement. Golf is a trial and error sport. I can't say that enough. If you don't do it yourself, you don't develop that muscle memory, golf can be very difficult because if you've never done the trial and error part, you're not going to trust your game. If you don't trust your game, chances of you trusting your swing, there's none. Chances you trusting your golf ball, there's none. So you're really just almost playing blind. So I really encourage all my students to make sure when they are coming to me for a lesson, what we learn, how we dissect into little steps. After I give them the little drills, there's a whole process from the time that you come to the golf course to the time that you leave. Now, for people who are just playing golf for fun and they don't really care about their score, they can practice however they want or they cannot practice at all. But if you are the type of golfer that plays regularly and your score does matter to you, you gotta practice. And what I mean by practice does not mean, hey, I'm just gonna show up for an hour and just hit balls and I'm done and not even think about it. Practicing with purpose, practicing with a schedule, practicing with drills, and actually practicing stuff that will help your game. So we don't always base this off of our previous bad round. There's so many times that people come after a couple lessons and I'm like, hey, how'd your week go? How was your golf? They always tell me a list of 100 million things of how many bad stuff that they did. That's always the first thing that they tell me. And then they always end on, oh yeah, I just had one good drive on one hole. Now, I'm pretty sure there's more positives in the round than there normally is verbally when they're telling me, but the negatives are always what bothers people, of course. They want to improve on it. But it almost sounds like you're just complaining about it versus doing something about each section. Now, let's talk about that for a second because it leads into our purpose with practicing. From your previous round, it doesn't always mean, hey, just because I missed 2-3 footers, my putting sucks. I'm completely a bad putter. I can't putt. No, that is not what it means. It means you're human. That means sometimes it gets an unlucky bounce. Sometimes you got the wrong speed. All of that, sometimes it does happen. How do you determine though correctly, not based off a good score round or a bad score round, is you keep your stats while you actually play, which means in a normal 18-hole round, you would take your fairway stats, meaning how many times you hit the fairway. So normally that's around 13 or 14 fairways minus the par threes. And then greens in regulation, GIR, which means how many actual greens you hit in regulation. So for a par 3, regulations you get in within one shot, you get on the green. Par 4, it's 2 shots to go on the green. Par 5, that's 3 shots to get on the green. So that's what it means when green in regulation. So if you got those and you check those off, that means our approach shots are okay. And they're not terrible because it's on the green. You're never gonna shoot low if you never get on the green, if you never really get it on the fairway. So those are the first things I always look at, and the most important when I look at a stat card from all my students or anybody, how many putts and chips did they have? So if you missed a green in regulation on a par 4, let's say it takes you 3 shots to get onto the green. Obviously you didn't get green in regulation because you're supposed to get into 2 shots. I wanna know how many chips it took you to get onto the green. Sometimes people have a difficulty with chipping technique. That happens sometimes. Sometimes you mess up or sometimes you overclub. Whatever the thing is, you write down how many chips you have and then after that following, how many putts you have into the hole. If you look at it from this perspective in the stats, you can actually see where your game is kind of almost bleeding, I always like to say. So if they're at the end of the round and you have, let's say you have 10 chips, but then you have 40 putts, 40 putts is probably the way that you shot a higher score. If you made all your fairways, you made all your greens, and you didn't have any chips because you made all the greens, and then you had again like 50, 60 putts, again, this stat card helps us know where your game is really at. Now, some people can have a round like that and feel like their swing was totally off that day. That happens as well. So sometimes, again, like I was saying earlier, what you say to your instructor or what you say to other people is not really reflecting the real numbers, what happens in your game. So that's really important. From then, you can go ahead and transfer that over to real practice, which means if I had 40 putts and I made every fairway, every green, and had no chips, I would probably designate my practice time the majority of putting. Now, before I continue, a lot of golfers will be like, okay, I'm just gonna practice putting for the entire week. That does not mean just because we had a good driving week, we had a good approach shot week, and a good chipping week, that we don't practice those sections. You don't leave them alone. I always like to think of it almost like a balancing act, like a scale. Like there's 4 scales. So there's putting, chipping, approach shot, and driving, right? So those 4 scales have to be pretty even throughout the entire time that you're playing. Some weeks, driving's gonna be stronger, everything else is gonna lean down. Some weeks, chipping is gonna be stronger. Some weeks, that's naturally gonna happen, but you give the same attention to each section of the game. You just maybe spend a little bit more time on putting since we had such a high number in that previous example. So after that, if your putting from that round is obviously astronomically higher, you just look at your week practice beforehand. Now, if you did a week where you didn't even touch the putter, it reflects in your golf game. But if you did have some sections in your practice that were dedicated to putting, go back and dissect your previous weeks. Hey, what did I do? Did I just take 3 balls, go to a random spot on the green and putt the same 3 balls to the same pin and do that same thing for an hour? Do you think that was productive? Probably not. Which leads into my next point of practice, quality versus quantity. I can't say this enough, everybody. It's more important that you are focusing on your shots, really being intentional with it, visualizing with your head, trying to actually feel, because again, golf is a feel, trust game. Quality shots versus quantity, meaning I would rather all my students, I tell this to them all the time and they probably think I'm a broken record, but whatever. I tell them all the time, I'd rather you hit 10 really good golf shots with the pre-shot routine, with the 3 things that we're working on, with a specific goal in mind. I'd rather you hit 10 actual golf balls if you're on the range or if you're putting, rather than hitting 500 balls with no thought process whatsoever. People are like, when I say that, they're like, well, wouldn't it be better to hit more shots for full swing, like 500 shots? I'm like, yes, but if there's no purpose to it, you really might as well just close your eyes and swing. Because that's what it's really like if you're not practicing with your mind, if you're not practicing with attention or intention, and most importantly, preparation. You gotta prepare for it, it's gonna take time. I know all you golfers scroll through social media, you're watching this video trying to find the magic answer. There's no microwave process. You gotta plan it out. Just like you plan your week, just like you plan your life. I'm pretty sure the other things that you want in your life, you plan and make time for it. So this is the same thing in golf. Make time for it if you really want to improve. If you really don't want to improve, don't ask me the question to be consistent, okay? To not practice all those things, that's just not gonna work. I'm sorry, I've done it, I've lived through it. There's no way that you can play golf good consistently without any practice. Literally no way. I'm sorry, just no, doesn't exist. Okay, so quality versus quantity, very important. So let's again take the same example. If I had a really bad putting week, I go back and I look at what did I do the last week. Let's say I just spent 10 minutes on putting and I did the simple gate drill on one of my previous videos. Only 10 minutes, and I only did it from one distance. I would look at that and look at my stat card and look at how far were my putts. If they were a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, then from there I would build on the drill, or I would ask my coach or go to a lesson, seek more information on how do I make my putting practice more valuable? How do I make myself more confident? Now, this is different for every person. If some people need more repetition than others, some people learn things faster than others. That's how you need to know yourself, how you learn, how you like to process, how you trust yourself. Because everybody has their own recipe. I can't say, oh, all you golfers out there, you need 100 golf balls every day and you'll be fine. I can't say that to everybody. Everybody's different with their time schedules, with their budgeting, with the location, their access to a practice area. All of those things matter. So let's say you do have twice a week. Let's just say my normal student normally only has twice a week, an hour to practice maximum. You would just give a little bit more time to putting. You would have a little bit more structure with the drills. obviously with some guidance or your self-assessment, but don't just spend more time on putting and force yourself to make putts. I'm pretty sure if you had a bad putting day, it was either your speed was a problem or your line was a problem. Those are the first two things when it comes to putting. So always in putting, no matter how bad your technique is or whatever, if you can determine the speed of the putt, you will be all right. So that's my tip for putting. In regards to practice though, you need to see, hey, did I get the speed down for all my 3-footers, 6-footers, 9, 12, and so forth and so forth? Do I feel comfortable with the putter that I'm using and the ball that I'm using? If the answer is no, you need to seek professional help. Wow, I don't want to sound like this is a mental illness, but you do need to seek professional help, because how else would you know if you don't learn from a professional? It's just like if you were going to go to the doctor, you wouldn't go to somebody who just started and doesn't know and doesn't have any teaching degrees. You'd probably go to someone who's kind of experienced. So that's the same thing, the same severity in the golf game, because golf is, again, personal for everybody. Everybody wants to improve. Everybody down here wants to do the least amount of work for the best possible answer. That's everybody in life. That's just natural. But if you follow what I'm saying, you make a practice schedule, all those things, quality versus quantity, looking at your stat card, it's going to help you tremendously. So last thing I'm going to say, last point, was practice schedule, what I just said. That's really important that you section off time zones for you, just you solo, to practice. That doesn't mean coming out here, hanging out with your buddies, talking, doing all that stuff. If you want to do that, that's fine. But solo practice. Everybody does solo practice because you need to zone in. A lot of people use earphones nowadays, listen to music, whatever. You need to design it on your own time. So if you were my student and you had this problem, I would tell you, hey, if you only have 1 hour twice a week, let's plan it out from minute to minute. From the time you get here to the time you leave, we're planning every single minute. There's a purpose, and you will feel more productive. So again, I can't say what it's going to be because I don't know who I'm talking to. I don't know the player. I don't know the setup. Everybody's different. That's how we have a full assessment on my first lesson. That's how I get you to improve naturally, because once you come back to me, which is the quote-unquote test, I can see if you have not practiced or not. I can't tell you guys how many times I've seen students. I'm like, hey, how's your week been? And they're like, great, I practiced every day. I was like, all right, let me see your shots. Go ahead and warm up. And literally within the first 3 balls, I can tell if they've practiced or not, no matter what we were working on. So don't lie, guys. If you want to improve, this is the actual secret. Make a practice plan, quality versus quantity, get some guidance, and honestly stop wasting your money. Don't just come here and just buy a bucket of balls and just blow them out there for no reason. Make use of your money. Make your time valuable. You'll be much more happier with your game, much more happier with your golf life, and less stressed out. Nobody wants to play stressed out golf, right? So this is the way. You just gotta make sure you're doing it on your time, and do it if you want to. If you find out, hey, 3 hours a week is too much for me, great. Tone it down a little bit. Just don't have so many high expectations. Oh, I want to shoot in the 60s every week. That's probably not gonna happen. Be realistic, have fun with it. At the end of the day, you are in control of your game. That's the last thing I'd like to say. Nobody else is in control. You get to determine how fast you improve. You get to determine how much you trust the game. You get to determine the clubs in your bag, the ball, everything is solo to you. This is not a team sport. This is up to you. So if you guys like this video, thank you for listening to my practice ramble. It's very important that you guys listen to this and put into action. I really hope you guys enjoy this video. I hope you guys put it into your practice. Get it, practice. And if you need any help, please send me a comment, send me a DM, send me email. I don't care. I will help you. Just give me some background, or even come to see me in person. Share, like, subscribe. Hit the notification bell. We have more videos to come, but that was the practice video. Hope you guys do better from here. Okay, bye.